stream, we see who accepts the stream, and then we share it. All right. Twitch has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream.
Oh, one. Oh, well, never mind. Okay.
And Facebook has accepted the stream. Now I'm going to share it.
Okay.
All right. I'm waiting for them to, Facebook to give me the link. Give me the link. Okay, Facebook has given me the link. And now I go to the Peace Center page. Which I think is here. All right, and okay, now we go to Facebook, I guess. And now I go to Western New York Peace Center. And you said you have 2 pages, right? One you like and one you don't like?
Well, the Justice Haven is not really needed. There's WNY Peace Center is the main one. So you should see that, right? It's got
Okay, let's see here.
50 likes.
Western New York Peace Center.
Yeah.
And it has the dove on it. Does that mean it's the right one?
It has the green origami. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And it doesn't allow me, it doesn't say post something. Sorry.
So you have to.
I have to sign in as the Peace Center, correct?
Right. And don't you had the link for that, right? Didn't you?
I do.
If yeah. So if you do that, that should allow you to post it.
Okay. Okay, sorry, it still won't let me do it.
Okay, well, you want to text it?
We'll have to start the show and do it afterwards.
Okay, can you text it to me?
Sure, I can do that.
That's the way we had done it, so.
Yeah.
Do it that
okay,
way.
Let me text it to you. Here is the link. And sent. You should have received the link.
I have, and I'm just putting it in. Okay, here we go. Schedule, publish now. There we go. Okay, so we're good.
All right. So you're going to have to set a timer on your phone.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so I'm ready to start. You ready?
Okay, I'll tell you when.
Okay.
Okay, you can begin the show.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being produced by our friend Richard Wicca at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, also Richard's home. Thank you, Richard, for all your help. We also thank our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station coming from Buff State, 91.3 FM. Thank you very much, WBNY at Buff State. And when I think about thankfulness, I think about our friends who are indigenous people, people of color of all kinds. And there's so many of us that know that thankfulness, gratitude is the attitude that really helps us. So our indigenous friends and other people who've been enslaved or oppressed still maintain that thankfulness. And I know that our the Onondaga and the Haudenosaunee start every gathering with a Ganonyo or a thankfulness to Mother Earth for giving us so many things that make our life here possible and that support us, that for all the plants and animals that sustain us, that make this world as beautiful as it is, all the different parts of creation, all the different factors, all the brother sun and grandmother moon, the stars, the heavens, all of that, and of course the creator and all the love that makes it all go round. So for that, then they say Yahweh, and the people say no. So I'll say Yahweh, and Yahweh, you can say no.
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 Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. So there is a lot going on. You don't need me to tell you that if you're listening to this radio show or watching the live stream now. We know that there is just an unbelievable amount of things going on, the wonderful and the terrible side by side every day. And today, in Women's Month, our topic is women's issues equal everyone's issues. So some people might quibble with that, but I think we'll be able to make a very good case for that fact, or that way of looking at things. So I'm excited about our topic. I think there's a lot of things we can talk about with it. And I don't know if Shyana Broughton may be able to join us. We'll be very delighted if she can. She is the director of our Mommie Village, and I'm thrilled that her friend and colleague and just a wonderful community healer that is a retired midwife, that is Eileen Stewart, has joined us for this show. Eileen, welcome.
Thank you so much. I was looking forward to having a round with Shyana, but we send her our love and our thoughts. She has said she wasn't well, and she hopes we're okay without her.
Oh,
so that's beautiful, and I hope that I can really represent the message of our Mommie Village too.
I know, I'm sure that you can. I'm just gonna see if she. I mean, it's sort of if she can, she could join us still, or if she can't, then she should not.
Yeah,
So,
I think that she says
sure.
she hopes we have an okay time without her.
Oh, that's not what she put to me. But anyway, so enough on that. So if she can't make it, that's very understandable.
Yeah.
And back to there's so much going on. It's a lot to handle.
Yes,
Very lot to handle.
indeed,
So,
on so many levels.
you're not kidding. So, and we'll be getting into that. But before we do, I just want to say, um, we usually start the show with talking about our values. So, how the values, what are the values that we think of in relation to this topic of women's issues during Women's History Month? So, so I invite you, Eileen, to mention, a couple of values that you think are very
Yeah,
foremost
so
in your mind with this topic.
yeah. So I think of the value of healing individually, like taking responsibility for reflection or for choices being made to heal. I mean, really healing and offering of oneself in service for healing is the most important most important thing that we can be doing right now. I mean, it's just clear that we're basically in a mess. I mean, really, like in so many ways. The work that I do with our Mommie Village and Shyana, related to the disparities in birth outcomes, and all of this, a value for the individual, and then a value for how that action really seeds how the community heals and how the community relationships can heal. And then, in particular in our work, the relationship to the next generation.
Sure. Absolutely. So healing is so important. I want to say, I took it on myself to list you as a community healer because of things that Shyana had said about you. And I want to say, as a social worker, that again, healing, dealing with trauma, healing from those traumas, from so many ways that, the question is not, what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. So
Yes.
that's a question about healing, right?
Yes.
To start that healing process. But what I like to oftentimes, and I'm going to go ahead and do this right now, is that I usually go to my sort of go-to ones are truth and love. So I think of how Reverend Dr. King said, unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. And I think what we're dealing with right now is we're going to share our truths about women's issues and people's issues, other issues, and then also it's about love. It's love that is the big motivator for helping people with healing, for healing ourselves, for loving each other, for trying to work for the. I think of Cornel West's phrase. Justice is what love looks like in public. So love is, and all the great activists, all the great healers, they all are motivated by this love. So those are important too. So
Absolutely.
it's all related. It's also
yes,
related.
Yes.
So I one of the ways that we thought we'd deal with this is to talk a little bit about the issues, the women's issues and how they affect other people, and also other issues and how they affect women.
Yeah.
Or their women's issues. So I'll just invite you to start with that, and maybe let's start with women's issues.
Yeah.
How they relate to everyone else.
Yeah. Well, this idea that Shyana had that to do our Mommie Village had to do with this idea that we're not going to get at the root of these maternal health problems without looking through a whole person lens, through a whole experience, through what the women's lived experience is. You can't bring them into a 15-minute or 3-minute medical care appointment and address all of the things that must be addressed in order for birth outcomes to be the most positive they could be, right? So we clearly have some problems here with infant mortality and maternal mortality in Western New York. And the medicalization of birth, I mean, really, I could just go on right there. Like the rightful place of birth in humans is a sacred rite of passage. It's just the problem of medicalizing and removing it from the family and from the sacredness of what's happening, that love connection between the mother, the incredible power that exists within the birth experience is so healthy for that to be really protected and for that to really remain within the family. And this is my vision for all of us to begin to work on that. It will take everybody in the community. This isn't about pregnant women. This isn't about birth workers. This is the ground. Like when you talk about truth and, a basic fundamental truth is that we're really created a system that's cutting us off from something that's so powerful and precious and able to deliver the experience and the power that's needed for the healing to occur. I have attended over 2,000 births. I know what can happen in that room. I know the oxytocin. We were created to fall in love with our babies.
Right. And I love that you say, it is the sacred, and you could say it's the sacred. It's the creation of life. It's the fruition of life. Actually, there's a beloved friend who named beloved friends who named their child sacred because of that sacredness, because life, reverence for life, that sacredness of the life creation and of life itself. Yes. So it's so important, and also it's so not in a vacuum. So all of our other issues come into it. So we were talking a little bit before the show, and I want to share with you one of the first experiences, an early experience as a social worker that I had, that a young teen that I was working with who lost her baby. And why? It was because of the racism in the healthcare system. It was pretty much of a slam dunk. When you heard all the different things that happened, it was so obvious that there was a callousness, there was a very automatic kind of response. It was just putting her off when there were reasons for concern, but they just sort of sloughed it off. And the tragedy of that. Yes. So all the other dysfunctional behaviors and aspects of our systems get visited into, it really goes back to, my sister goes crazy with me of how everything is connected, but it is. So certainly our social issues, that the racism, the militarism, all of those things weigh into birth, into life, into reverence for life or lack of reverence for life. I think of Dr. King, or any peace activist, and how important, that reverence for life is so basic. And that could have been another one of our principles, right?
Absolutely. It is one of our principles for sure.
It's so critical in this topic. And for women who are the life givers, who are the bearers of life, who bring that life to fruition, that's one of the most powerful things in the world.
Well, I don't know that it was actually intentional how this occurred, but I mean, I know that death can happen.
Right.
I know that there are things to be mindful about, and that birth can have an element of fear in it. But we have so tightly linked fear to birth that it's caused such a problem. And so the return, of trust in the body, birth, I mean, is as safe as it gets.
Right.
Really, our bodies were designed to conceive, gestate, birth, and feed the next generation.
Right.
And the disconnect, and in place of that, putting this deep-seated fear. And it seems to me that it's all of our jobs to begin to explore what that actually means individually, and then as a family, and then as a group, and as a culture. Like, what does that mean if we're going to actually place birth at the center of our home and our family life, and how we talk about it? I mean, it goes on over there behind the closed doors. Many young women never experience birth before they're in that room themselves, and they are terrified. But if we place birth at the center, allowing it to have its sacred space. Look, we're all born. And guess what? We're all going to die.
Right.
And this amount of fear that we've locked into the birth story, embedded into our, this medical care system,
Right.
is killing us.
Well, and actually in the death story too, but I don't want to get off into that, but that's true too. So fear, the way fear is used. And the other thing I was thinking as you were saying is, as a social worker, I can't help mentioning that we know that the earlier things happen, all other things being held equal, the more intense the experience is for the one experiencing it. So there's a lot of other factors, but that is very big. So, so that's why, it's so important how the mom is feeling when she's expecting, all of that, and how, the early time for the baby or the birth itself, all of that has a high impact. And just because people don't remember it has nothing to do with anything.
Well, I would argue that we can remember it. I would argue that it is stored within the cells of our body.
Sure.
And that accessing some frequency, vibrations, some encounter with that, or encountering other experiences of birth, like birth of family members, and teasing out the love stories.
Sure.
Don't focus all of this attention on the fact that there is physical pain. The
Right.
overriding amount of physical pain that there is compared to there is more oxytocin at the moment of birth than at any other time in a human's experience. Why aren't we talking about that?
Right.
Why aren't we talking about, hey, most women, after they have given birth to a baby, could tell you, I think I could probably friggin' do anything. I grew a human, and I labored and birthed that human. That was a powerful life experience, and share that with other women.
Right.
Instead of the terror of the physical pain.
Well, it's back to, we could, that the medical system is its own problems in a lot of other ways about over medicating. That's another thing as a social worker I can say plenty about, that our solutions are these pills and then they cause all the side effects that make us need more pills. And then, yeah, it's all imbalance. It's all creating imbalance.
Yes.
But I also feel like women's issues of all kinds affect the rest of us. So that, for example, all over the world, the more educated and the more empowered women are, the better the quality of life is for everyone in that country. That the research supports that entirely. It is a slam dunk. All the research shows that women's education, women's empowerment, women's ability to run their own lives, to work, to have the full respect.
Or just even to have autonomy over their own bodies.
Exactly. Of course, that's just what I was going to say. And to have autonomy over their own bodies, which has become this huge, terrible question.
Terrible.
And that the outrageous oppression and violence that women are suffering by having men in a room deciding what they and their doctors should be deciding. And there's no reason why those things should be legislated for women when they're not legislated for men.
Yeah, it's
misogyny. I mean, it's just plain and simple misogyny. Now, reverence for life, we can't uphold that more. I think that everything you've said is so key to that, and everything I've said too. So that reverence for life goes hand in hand with women have, with a baby and with the love that a woman has, the woman and the doctor are the ones to know, and she can pull in whatever other people or questions or, other, questions about what she needs or what she doesn't need or what the baby needs or what the baby doesn't need. That will all come in.
Right. And we can use medical care. I mean, I'm certainly not advocating that we should not use medical care. I'm just advocating that we should integrate into that care emotional, spiritual reality of our lives.
Right.
The doula studies are just remarkable, the work that has been done around looking at what the effect of having a doula, which is basically a supportive being in that room whose only concern is to be the love in the room for that woman. Right. That is their responsibility to help advocate, but to love on that mom while she's in that state where she has to go to the stars and bring that baby back down into that body, into that earth plane. And that the outcomes for women who have a doula are just so much better.
Right. It's so critical. It's so important. And I just read that there was I think it was Blue Cross Blue Shield has just approved that doula services will be covered.
Right.
So that
in the state of New York, Medicaid is covering doulas as well. And there is a lot more about, so that the work that, Shane is really interested in the most marginalized families, right? The people who are most disenfranchised are in her circle and are receiving, love and a bowl of lentils.
All the things they need.
Yeah, conversations
of all the whole person.
That's it. She's really bringing in the whole picture.
Right. So, and another thing that I also think is that as well as women's issues affect everyone, that's what we're just sort of saying, partly because we all were birthed by a woman.
There we go.
So it's very central to our whole being. How was our birth? How was our gestation period? How was our birth? How was our early time? and that really sets the stage for what is our emotional reality going to be, and what's our idol? Like, how do we feel in the absence of something that's making us feel differently? How do we feel in a just neutral? What's our neutral?
Yeah, the blueprint.
Yeah. So the big thing, is the world a safe place to be in? And actually, back to what you said, the way fear gets used. So for a lot of us, it would say it is not. And actually, for some of us, it hardly is, because of the, imbalances and really just heinous injustices that exist in our society. So I want to go to the other side of the equation, is also how other people's issues are women's issues. So I want to bring two things into I want to invite you to bring two other things into the room, because I have two that I definitely want to bring into this room today. So what are two issues, for example, that you think of as that on the face of it, somebody would say it's not a woman's issue?
Yeah. Poverty.
Okay, poverty, please. Go ahead.
Poverty.
Talk about it.
And I guess that for me is linked with oppression, right?
Yeah.
And finding it difficult to find their way to the resources that are necessary.
Right.
And of course, in my world, it's during pregnancy, but during early motherhood or during a period of time of transition in their own lives. So I think that's key, that we keep the focus on resources and equitable distribution of resources, and identifying when there's hunger or insecurity around that, and making plans for a deepening of the understanding of food and where food comes from, and how food can be really used to oppress, right? The access to food. And I think the other thing besides poverty too, for me, is this this way in which I see the women that come into our Mommie village are not feeling as if they have a community support. Like before they arrive at the village, there's just such a lack, these silos of, over here you can get some education, or over here you could maybe get some housing help, or, there's just no sense of community or somebody actually seeing this person. For example, the WIC program, Women, Infant, and Children, is supposed to give out food and give out vouchers, or, help people have extension of their food budget. Well, I'm just completely blown away when I hear that a brand new mother with a brand new baby is asked to go to an appointment at the WIC clinic. That baby and that woman should not be going anywhere. We should be coming in with the service.
Right. Well, and I have to mention all of this, both of those issues, see them in the light of the fact that we have a reverse Robin Hood activities going on, the like of which we've never seen before. I mean, not that it's never happened, that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, but it has certainly gone on steroids now, for all the oligarchy, and the way that it's just blatant. It's so blatant that, people, just the chaos that's being sown, the services that are being denied, taken away, and then tax breaks for the rich is the only thing they can think of. And I mean, they're not. It's tax breaks. It's subsidies. There's a whole welfare system for the corporations and for rich people who also don't have to pay their taxes because there's nobody to audit them, because they're so all of that is going on. So that what you're talking about, both the poverty, which is getting intensified, so that our children, and here we are in Buffalo with almost half of our children are in poverty, that we're the second or third worst city of our size in terms of childhood poverty.
Yes.
So so New York, and here we are in Buffalo. We're in New York State. We're in one of the more supposedly liberal states. So I just wanted to highlight that piece.
Yeah.
And it goes the same to what you said about services as they start denying or ratcheting down on services, on Medicaid, on this and that, taking from people and their needs and shoveling it over. They can't shovel it to Fear Inc. fast enough. Fear Inc. being the efforts to control, intimidate, incarcerate, or even kill, which you're not surprised about that.
No.
So the police, the military, they never say, oh, we can't afford it. But like school lunches, then we hear about we can't afford it. Mm-hmm. Or somebody's afraid that some child may get lunch who could have paid for lunch, and don't worry about all the majority of children, or almost a majority of children, who couldn't. So that, but I want to also mention, I was just at the trial of the John Walker Jr., who is one of the Buffalo Five. So of the Buffalo Five, for those of you who've not heard of it, of the Buffalo Five, there's one surviving member. So these were 5 kids, teenagers, like 16 years old, in the 60s, 67, I think it was, 66 or 67, that they were railroaded into, one of them was railroaded into a confession of something that they never did. There was ample evidence that they never did it, and the police investigation had been going on and looking in one way, and then that somebody, there was an anonymous call, which could have been, I'm going to say it seems obvious that it could have been from someone who knew better, who was connected with the people who did actually do the murder. But anyway, there was an anonymous call sticking it on one child, and that child had been with 4 of his friends. And so they just hit on this plan to stick it on these friends, just like the Central Park 5. Yes. Only the thing is, it went on for so much longer. So that so the one of them had gone state's evidence because he was railroaded into it. They said, we'll give you a deal, and all the manipulation and sort of entrapment that went on that convinced him to just save his own skin by just admitting that they all did it when they didn't. One of them, who got some evidence that the other people didn't, his attorney, who had a good attorney, he was acquitted. But the other 3 were convicted, and they did respectively 21, 28, and 31 years, and then a bunch of parole on top of it, except for the one who did 31 years, who died very shortly after getting out. And the other one, Daryl Boyd, just died, February 6th, I think. So yes. John Walker is the lone one, and he says this is one last hill to climb. And let me tell you, talk about crime. It is a crime what has been done to these men and their families. And this is why I want to bring it up, because his sister, his child's mother, his girlfriend, his niece, and his all the people, women we care about, because we care about our families and our people. All those issues are women's issues. Racism is our issue, and it's all of our issue, and that's whether we're black or white or a color or anything, because we all pay for that racism. We all pay by the injustice and the just criminality of the racist acts that get done through our institutions, or that get perpetuated by these feedback loops that are the lack of intergenerational wealth, the lack of education, the not having the connections to make your way. So there's all these ways that we as women, and also, who care about people, care about the planet, care about the people who are suffering from the blizzard or from whatever kind of climate catastrophe effects people are suffering from. So those are women's issues too, in a larger sense, not in the sense of a direct, and yet it's very direct, what we feel when we're.
Right. Well, like we were saying before about how that blueprint exists in ourselves, this, what we're talking about here on a cultural level, on a community level, is imprinted. What has happened to these people is terrifying,
Right.
and so shameful and painful for both sides. I mean, for everyone involved.
Well, the moral injury of the people who are doing the dirty work. That's one thing. I was watching attorneys and I'm thinking, they know because there's ample evidence, and so they're twisting it because they get paid to do that. I also want to mention the 3 little girls that were in that courtroom watching and hearing this. They're not stupid. They hear what's going on,
of course.
and also they know it, because this is their family.
Yes, they've lived it, and that lives on in this community,
Yes.
and that lives on in the Buffalo community in so many ways. Time
and again. I just finished saying, so there's this injustice. Well, there's now, we're taping this on Wednesday the 19th, which happens to be, I'll get into that in a minute, which happens to be the day we went to war in Iraq, just by the way, in 2003. But, the fact that, that tomorrow, for those of you who hear this on live stream, or for those of you who are interested, who are hearing it on the radio, there's the case of Martin Sostry and Geraldine Robinson, who were falsely accused of selling drugs out of his bookstore. So that wrong, that injustice has never been corrected. She lost her children behind that. He's passed now, but they were framed. And there's ample evidence that they were framed. People wanted, the powers that be wanted to shut down that bookstore. So they did. And that's the way they did it, by framing them. And so the suffering, and that suffering, I didn't introduce myself. And I've reclaimed my teenage nickname of Victory, because I say that the real victory, everybody wins. But also the real failure, everybody loses. So the moral injury to these people who've done the dirty work, who have the blinders on, who are ignoring the fact that they're perpetuating injustice or justifying injustice or preventing justice from being done, that's bad. That's going to be bad for them in their lives. It's going to be bad for everyone they come into contact with. That's bad for their children.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely true.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up on my 2 things, the other thing that's very much on my mind is Gaza, is Israel and Palestine, and especially Palestine, because the Israeli government, the criminal acts, and these are war crimes that are being committed by the Israeli government in such a heinous way so back to its women's issues, because there's the women there. There's the majority of people killed are women and children,
right?
Because they talk about surgical precision. It is just plain BS. It's just not true. They're bombing willy-nilly. They just killed 500 people yesterday. I think it was yesterday that they started bombing again. They don't want the hostages back, or they would be making a deal to get the hostages back and end all this. It's really about genocidal acts. And the International Criminal Court, or the World Court, I should say, International Court of Justice. Sorry. So those are two different world, associated uh, uh, courtrooms for the world's issues, international issues of international law. And we have international law. We have great international law that if we followed it, it would be a peaceful world. However, we don't follow it, and we just pretend to ignore or give all the excuses. So anyway, so the women there who are suffering, and also women or anyone here with a heart who hears what's going on over there and how unjust it is, that Trump wants to turn it into the Riviera, and they're looking for places. That is genocidal acts. That is ethnic cleansing. That is what they're doing. And it is a slam dunk that is what's happening, and that it's war crimes being done by the Israeli government.
Yes.
Now, and they always want to say, what about October 7th? Well, October 7th was also, by the textbook of international, was a war crime. However, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened after all these years of continual settler incursions that have been determined by the World Court to be illegal and to be needing to be reversed. And yet the Israeli government is ignoring that. So anyway, I just had to bring that up.
Yeah, of course, because these world events, these local community events, of course, they're in the atmosphere in which we live. Yes. And so the individual's ability to generate healing, to generate love, to keep the idea of birth and its sacredness at the center of their conversations in their family, in their community, have value and importance in the big picture.
And by the way, I want to say, in terms of reverence for life, the people who talk about, they're pro-life, why is that pro-life end once the birth has happened?
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. So it's very, very phony. I mean, it may not seem phony, and I'm not going to say 100% of it is, but there are many, many people who do talk about pro-life, but then they don't have any real caring about making sure that the children have enough food, making sure that...
Listen, the best pro-life action is about teaching about reproductive health and teaching young men about condoms.
Right. So those are simple solutions that we don't really address that could be,
life-changing for our community.
Yes. Instead of, back to misogyny. There's a misogyny about the wanting to control women's bodies, wanting to force women who've been raped or to carry a baby to term is ridiculous. And then there's all the falsehoods that get generated. And so anyway, that's a whole nother topic, about the amount of lying that's going on it's just a dizzying. It's getting to be in a dizzying pace. One of the things, so I want to move us into our next phase of how people can either, help and get more involved and be empowered to get them. So please.
Yeah. So I think that there is these opportunities to support these not-for-profits, these tiny little not-for-profits, Shayna's not-for-profit in particular, our Mommie Village. But there's also the personal responsibility at uncoupling fear from birth. Right. And that means that as we talk to our family members, our sisters, our brothers, when you see a pregnant woman, and how many people just lay her down with all the fears and all the problems that can happen.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think there are a multitude of reasons. I mean, when we heal the other larger problems as well, we're giving the chance for that sacredness to be returned to all life. And of course, I believe, and of course, my life's work has been around birth, but I think the sanctity of life can't be being honored in so many ways.
Right. Through the life course. Through the
Entirely.
Life, all life is sacred.
Yeah. All humans, not based on gender, based on, race.
And not every sperm is sacred either. So having watched what is it? The Meaning of Life, Monty Python.
The millions of sperm.
Yeah, the millions, billions,
Billions, yeah, billions.
Sure, there's billions. But yeah, no, it's about actual life. So if we want to be pro-life, then we have to be pro-life all the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
That means,
Oh, for sure.
all the sexual education, family planning, or contraception, all the things, all the tools. We have so many tools that we can use, and instead we have a lot of tools that are being used really for oppressing.
Yeah, I'm doing a course called Navigating the Law of Attraction, a whole health education program for youth.
Wow.
Funded by Hope Buffalo.
By which one?
Hope Buffalo.
Oh, really? Very, very, very good. So, I mean, there are ways of getting empowered. And, first of all, I think that trying to, we've got our behaviors and our actions have to be linked to our principles. So when we want to say that we're pro-life, then let's think about what that means.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where I'd say the Western New York Peace Center is another small nonprofit, and a very small nonprofit.
Yes.
At that, you don't want to get me off onto that just how small a nonprofit it is. So, and here's the thing, is that back to what we said about fearing, they can't shovel the money fast enough at the powers that be, at the oligarchy, at the corporations who have all their lobbyists and everything else. But then the programs for people and the planet go wanting. The organizations that are looking after people's needs, the planet's needs. So that's everything from after school programs, doulas and birthing programs, peaceful conflict resolution, education, nutrition, all the things that we're talking about. Those health inducing, healing, healthy, nurturing programs are the ones that they say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any more money, because we've just spent it all on policing and everything else.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that people can get involved is really getting involved in those questions. Our budgets are moral documents. So
Yes.
we spend all our money on policing and the carceral system and the sheriffs, and instead of on things that will prevent the problems that those actually, the other thing is that those violent or oppressive, fear-oriented occupations are setting the stage for more violence, because of course violence begets violence. And also when people are in that environment where the powers that be are using violence as their solution, what's the lesson there? People think, okay, well, fine, that's the solution then. When of course it's only perpetuating problem.
Yeah.
So I think people getting involved in our political organization, in our government, in our in maintaining a democracy, in the power of the people. And actually, I just say we're having a big, just for those who haven't heard about it, there's going to be a big Buffalo United march and rally that will be on April 5th. That's a Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. in Niagara Square with a rally, and then there'll be a march. And it includes standing up for people's rights. So that's to stop the firings that are going on. That's the all the services that are being cut. That's all the immigrants and refugees that are being just mistreated in the most heinous ways. People being deported willy-nilly, even against judges' decisions. People being incarcerated with quotas for just massive picking up of people who may not have been even accused of any crime. There's all kinds of confusion going on. So that is going to be addressed in this Buffalo United march and rally. And then at 2:30 same day, Saturday, April 5th, there'll be Latin American Solidarity Committee of the Western New York Peace Center is going to have a big, a film showing of Running to Keep Still and Running to Stand Still, I think it is. And also the different resettlement agencies and Justice for Migrant Families and Jericho Road will all be there to discuss the situation, the way the government has reneged on their promises to the refugees, et cetera. So there's a lot going on.
So much. There's so much to put our attention on. Mm-hmm. And I think there's also this movement, or I hear more about this movement of the idea that spreading joy, gratitude, and healing are acts, is activism as well.
Absolutely. We have to.
You don't have to choose one or the other. You can do them both.
Oh, no. So
and we must.
It's back to a balance. So we need both, and we need to do both. So we need the joy and beauty in our life every day. Mm-hmm. And also, it's the old Gandhian, it's a sin to be silent when one should protest. So we can't just ignore the things that are wrong.
No.
We need to nurture the things and help and share the things that we need.
That work, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So both those things are so important. It's so doable. And back to women, I'm not going to say that women, we used to do an event that we called Women's Ways, Peace Ways. And the idea being that women are just really genetically, hormonally programmed to be more peaceful and nurturing. And so some of that isn't men's fault, that testosterone tends to, in the fight, flight, freeze, it tends to go to the fight. Now, there's also social things that are social expectations and myths and everything that also support that. And yet, back to, the nurturing parent.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a woman. I mean, plenty of men who are very strong and committed, loving peacemakers.
Yeah. It's just also what's being shared, what's being shown, right?
Right.
We have to share and show the peaceful way, and not be afraid of that. I mean, I think there's been a tapping down of it, not to want to be identified as going to be outside of what's expected, right? Don't be too peaceful. Don't be too loving. You're over the top about it. But, this could be the right moment for that. So be fully embodied in what each of us are gifted with the thing that we can do, and just do that. It's enough. You're enough. You're enough. And what you have to offer is enough, but don't don't hold back.
Oh, you're so right. So exactly right. That we just, we'll try to help. We need to try and help where we can, or just in our little sphere of influence too, sort of what are
There's
we
one
doing?
smile, one conversation, that's how we build a more peaceful world. Yeah,
It's a beloved community.
it
That's
is.
building trust. That's another thing. We've just got so many trust issues in our community. And I would even say in some ways, not for no reason, because we're talking about
Oh,
something.
yeah, we're talking about the reasons why we do have it.
But however, people's, people, they're a loving heart is a natural thing. It's more when people have been taught, it's back to, I just can't help thinking of South Pacific, and you got to be taught to hate and fear, you know. It's that's what people are taught often, and especially traumatized people have a traumatized worldview, so that gets conveyed to children.
Very conveyed to children, right? Yeah. In
So
the
that
cells.
so that's where striving for, we were just talking about this peace on all the levels,
Hmm.
like you were saying, so that nurturing of peace in ourselves, with each other, just trying to live in that joy and beauty, and just
That's it. That's what we've got. That's what we actually have the choice to do, right?
right. Absolutely, we do. We so we so can, we so need to for our own selves, and then for our community.
Right. Yeah.
And just like there's a vicious circle that can go on, right? There's a virtuous circle that can go on. Is the more we share that truth and love, listen to other people's truths, share our truth, come to a better understanding in love, that we can care for each other and see that people's needs are met, and people and the planet can thrive.
Mhm. Yeah, we can evolve right out of warring.
Right. Oh, we need to. Oh, we need to. And don't get me started on the nuclear stuff. Actually, so that's a whole nother issue that is very much in that way of, we need to do this. We can do this. To me, it's a spiritual struggle, and we just have to keep right on.
That's right.
So I'm going to say I'm so grateful, Eileen, for the
Thank
work
you.
you're doing, for your joining us, for Shyana, even though she couldn't make it.
I know she's
That's the work. That's why.
connected us.
Yes, she connected us, and she is doing the work
She is.
every way.
She's doing it.
Just and oh, her lovely children. So
I know. They're beautiful.
children.
Yeah.
And all her our Mommie village. I'm sure all the wonderful children.
I was her midwife for that last Noah. He
Really?
brought us together.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for your joining me tonight, or today for those of you hearing this on a Monday, and just for all the work that you're doing. I want to say
Yeah, and thank you. It's been lovely to meet you in the Western New York Peace Center.
it's great to meet you, and I want to say this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace,
Yes.
truth, and love.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good. We are off the air.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Nice. So nice to meet you.